You wake at 3 in the morning for the 4th time this week, drenched in sweat despite the ceiling fan spinning overhead. Or maybe it is the afternoon energy crash that hits you like a wall every day around 2 o'clock, the one that makes you desperate for sugar or caffeine or both. Perhaps it is the irritability that descends without warning, the tears that come for no reason, the bloating that makes your clothes fit differently depending on the day. You might be the woman whose cycles have become unpredictable after years of regularity, or the one whose skin erupts in breakouts that belong to adolescence rather than adulthood, or the one who cannot lose weight no matter how carefully she eats and exercises. You have probably been told this is normal. Hormones are complicated, they say. This is just what happens as you get older. Your body is going through changes. Take this pill, try this cream, accept this reality. The message is consistent. Hormonal disruption is inevitable, mysterious, largely out of your control, manageable only through pharmaceutical intervention or resigned acceptance. But what if the food on your plate holds more power over your hormonal health than any pill in a bottle? What if the symptoms tormenting you are not the inevitable consequence of being female, but signals from a body starving for specific nutrients it needs to manufacture and regulate the hormones that govern your entire life? What if addressing your hormones does not require complexity at all, but rather a focused return to particular foods that provide exactly what your endocrine system requires? This is what I want to share with you. Not another complicated protocol, not another supplement stack, not another expensive intervention that may or may not address what is actually happening inside you. Instead, 5 foods that directly support the hormonal processes causing your symptoms. Foods that work with your biology rather than against it. Foods that women across generations have eaten, often without understanding why they craved them, because bodies are smarter than we give them credit for. Hormonal health matters at every stage of a woman's life, not just during the obvious transitional periods that receive most attention. The young woman establishing her cycles needs hormonal support. The woman in her reproductive years needs it whether she's trying to conceive or trying not to. The perimenopausal woman navigating dramatic fluctuations needs it desperately. The postmenopausal woman whose production has shifted needs it still. Hormones do not stop mattering after menopause. They simply require different support. The modern world creates particular challenges for hormonal health that previous generations did not face. Environmental chemicals that mimic estrogen permeate our food, water, and household products. Chronic stress elevates cortisol in ways that disrupt the entire hormonal cascade. Processed foods stripped of the nutrients needed for hormone production have replaced the whole foods that once supplied them. Sleep deprivation, artificial light exposure, and disconnection from natural rhythms all contribute to the hormonal chaos that has become epidemic among women. This context matters because it explains why so many women struggle despite trying to do everything right. You're not weak or defective. You are living in conditions your biology did not evolve to handle. The foods I'm about to describe help bridge the gap between your ancient physiology and your modern circumstances. They provide what your hormonal system needs to function despite the challenges it faces. Before we discuss specific foods, I need to explain something about hormones that most discussions oversimplify. When people talk about female hormones, they often group estrogen and progesterone together as if they were a single entity. They are not. These hormones have different functions, different patterns, different needs. What supports estrogen may not support progesterone. What helps during one phase of your cycle may not help during another. Understanding this distinction transforms how you approach food for hormonal health. Estrogen governs the first half of your menstrual cycle, building the uterine lining, supporting brain function, maintaining bone density, keeping skin supple and metabolism active. Progesterone dominates the second half, preparing for potential pregnancy, calming the nervous system, supporting sleep, balancing estrogen's stimulating effects. The dance between these hormones creates the rhythm that should feel natural rather than turbulent. Different foods support these different hormones in different ways. Foods high in healthy fats, fiber, polyphenols, and probiotics tend to support estrogen metabolism and balance. Foods dense in specific nutrients that serve as building blocks for hormone production tend to support progesterone. This is not a strict division, and many foods support both, but understanding that your hormonal needs shift allows you to eat in ways that match what your body requires at different times. Now let me introduce you to the 5 foods that provide the most powerful support for female hormonal health. These are not exotic superfoods requiring specialty stores and premium prices. They are accessible, affordable, and versatile enough to incorporate into regular eating without dramatic lifestyle disruption. The first food is the avocado, and its importance for hormonal health extends far beyond its trendy status. The avocado provides a unique combination of nutrients that directly serves hormonal processes in multiple ways simultaneously. Consider what happens when you eat an avocado. The healthy fats it contains support hormone production directly because your hormones are manufactured from fat-based molecules. Cholesterol, which avocados help maintain at healthy levels, is literally the raw material from which your body builds estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol. Without adequate healthy fat intake, hormone production becomes constrained regardless of what else you do. Beyond providing raw materials, avocados stabilize blood sugar in ways that profoundly affect hormonal balance. When blood sugar spikes and crashes, as it does with refined carbohydrate consumption, insulin surges trigger a cascade of hormonal disruptions. High insulin affects sex hormone-binding globulin, which determines how much of your hormones are available to act on tissues. Blood sugar instability increases cortisol, which in turn affects estrogen and progesterone balance. The fiber and fat in avocados slow glucose absorption, preventing the spikes that create this cascade. The brain, which orchestrates hormonal signals through the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, is 60% fat by dry weight. It requires steady supplies of healthy fats to function optimally. When you nourish your brain with the fats avocados provide, the command center that regulates your entire hormonal system operates more effectively. The signals become clearer, the coordination improves. Avocados also feed your gut microbiome, which has emerged as a major player in hormonal health. Your gut bacteria participate in estrogen metabolism through what researchers call the estrobolome, a collection of bacterial genes that produce enzymes affecting how estrogen is processed. When your microbiome is healthy, estrogen is metabolized appropriately. When it is disrupted, estrogen can be reabsorbed in forms that contribute to dominance and all its symptoms. The fiber in avocados feeds beneficial bacteria that support healthy estrogen processing. The practical application is simple. Eat avocados regularly, particularly during the first half of your cycle when estrogen support matters most. Add them to salads, spread them on vegetables, blend them into smoothies, eat them plain with a little salt. The versatility allows daily inclusion without monotony. The benefits accumulate with consistent consumption. The second category of foods encompasses bitter compounds, and this is where many women unknowingly deprive themselves of something their hormones desperately need. Bitter foods have largely disappeared from modern diets. We have bred bitterness out of vegetables, developed cultivars that emphasize sweetness, and conditioned our palates to reject the very flavors our bodies require. Bitter foods include dandelion greens, radicchio, arugula, endive, lemon, ginger, grapefruit, and many herbs and spices. What unites them is the presence of compounds that trigger specific physiological responses when they reach your digestive system. When bitter compounds contact your tongue, they activate receptors that signal your liver and gallbladder to produce and release bile. Bile is how your body eliminates used hormones. After estrogen has served its purpose, it must be broken down and excreted. If this elimination pathway is sluggish, estrogen recirculates in forms that create imbalance. Many symptoms attributed to estrogen excess are actually symptoms of estrogen recycling due to poor elimination. The liver performs hundreds of functions, but among the most important for hormonal health is hormone metabolism. Every hormone your body produces must eventually be processed by your liver and eliminated. When liver function is compromised by toxin exposure, poor diet, or inadequate bitter food intake, this processing slows. Hormones that should be cleared accumulate. Balance becomes impossible to achieve. Bitter foods also support digestive function generally, improving the breakdown and absorption of nutrients needed for hormone production. They stimulate gastric secretions that enhance protein digestion, making amino acids available for neurotransmitter synthesis. They support gut motility, preventing the constipation that contributes to hormone reabsorption. The timing of bitter foods can be strategic. During ovulation, when estrogen peaks and the body needs to begin shifting toward progesterone dominance, bitter foods support the clearance of estrogen that might otherwise persist too long. Postmenopausal women, who often experience symptoms related to hormonal fluctuations and poor clearance, benefit from consistent bitter food intake to support the liver's processing capacity. If you experience hot flashes, which often relate to how the body handles hormonal fluctuations rather than simply to hormone levels, bitter foods may provide relief by supporting better hormone metabolism. The compounds in bitter greens and citrus assist the liver in processing hormones smoothly rather than in disruptive bursts. Start incorporating bitter foods by adding a small salad of bitter greens before meals. Squeeze lemon into your water throughout the day. Include ginger in your cooking or tea. The initial taste may seem unpleasant if your palate has become accustomed to sweetness, but this preference adapts quickly. Within weeks, bitter foods become enjoyable, even craved, as your body recognizes what they provide. The third food category involves seeds, specifically flax seeds and pumpkin seeds, used in a practice sometimes called seed cycling. This practice has gained popularity because women report meaningful improvements in their symptoms when they implement it, though the scientific research remains limited. The practice aligns with what we understand about the nutrients these seeds contain and their potential effects on hormone metabolism. Flax seeds are rich in lignans, plant compounds that have weak estrogenic effects and may help modulate estrogen activity in the body. They also provide fiber that supports estrogen elimination through regular bowel movements, preventing the reabsorption that contributes to imbalance. The omega-3 fats in flax seeds reduce inflammation that can disrupt hormonal signaling. The practice involves consuming ground flax seeds during the first half of the menstrual cycle, from day 1 through approximately day 14, when estrogen naturally rises and dominates. The lignans and fiber support estrogen production, while simultaneously supporting its healthy metabolism and elimination. Pumpkin seeds provide zinc, which is essential for progesterone production and overall reproductive health. They contain compounds that may support the second half of the cycle, when progesterone should dominate. Some practitioners add sunflower and sesame seeds during this phase for additional supportive nutrients. The practice is simple to implement. Take 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds daily during the first half of your cycle. Switch to 1 to 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds daily during the second half. If your cycles are irregular or absent, you can follow a moon-based cycle, starting flax with the new moon and switching to pumpkin at the full moon. Whether seed cycling works through specific hormonal mechanisms or through the general nutritional support these seeds provide, many women report improvements in cycle regularity, reduced PMS symptoms, and better overall hormonal balance. The practice is safe, inexpensive, and provides valuable nutrients regardless of whether the specific cycling aspect matters. Even if the timing turns out to be irrelevant, you are still consuming beneficial seeds that support your health. The fourth food category encompasses root vegetables, particularly sweet potatoes, winter squashes, and other starchy vegetables that grow beneath the ground. These foods support progesterone production in ways that complement the estrogen-supporting foods I described earlier. Progesterone requires specific nutrients for synthesis, and root vegetables provide many of them. They contain vitamin A in the form of beta-carotene, which the body converts as needed. Vitamin A is essential for progesterone production and for maintaining the corpus luteum that produces progesterone during the second half of the menstrual cycle. Women deficient in vitamin A often struggle with progesterone insufficiency. Root vegetables provide complex carbohydrates in a form that supports hormonal health rather than disrupting it. Unlike refined carbohydrates that spike blood sugar and disturb insulin, the carbohydrates in root vegetables come packaged with fiber that moderates absorption. These carbohydrates actually support thyroid function, which is intimately connected to reproductive hormone balance. Severe carbohydrate restriction, while it may help some women, can suppress thyroid function and reduce progesterone production in others. The caloric density of root vegetables matters for hormonal health in ways that diet culture ignores. Your body requires adequate energy to produce hormones. When caloric intake drops too low, when the body perceives scarcity, reproductive function is among the first systems to be downregulated. The signal that tells your body it's safe to reproduce requires adequate nutrition. Root vegetables provide satisfying calories that support this signal. During the second half of your cycle, when progesterone should rise, increasing root vegetable consumption may support this natural shift. Craving carbohydrates during this phase is common and often reflects genuine physiological need. Rather than fighting these cravings with willpower, Satisfying them with nutrient-dense root vegetables gives your body what it is asking for while supporting the hormonal process driving the craving. Postmenopausal women benefit from root vegetables for different reasons. Though ovarian progesterone production declines, the adrenal glands continue producing hormones that affect well-being. Supporting adrenal function through adequate nutrition, including the complex carbohydrates and nutrients in root vegetables, helps maintain energy, mood, and overall hormonal balance after menopause. The fifth food category is animal protein, particularly poultry and high-quality meat, which provides amino acids essential for hormone production that plant foods cannot fully replace. Hormones are built from proteins. Amino acids are the building blocks from which your body constructs not only reproductive hormones, but also the neurotransmitters that affect mood, sleep, and stress response. Adequate protein intake ensures your body has the raw materials it needs for these construction projects. Inadequate intake forces the body to prioritize, building some compounds while leaving others insufficient. Poultry is particularly valuable because it provides tryptophan, the amino acid precursor to serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin affects mood, appetite, and well-being. Melatonin regulates sleep. Both affect how you experience your hormonal fluctuations. Women with adequate serotonin experience their cycles more smoothly than women who are deficient. The irritability, depression, and anxiety that accompany hormonal changes often reflect neurotransmitter insufficiency that proper nutrition could address. Quality matters with animal protein. Animals raised on pasture, fed their natural diets, and treated humanely provide better nutrition than those raised in industrial conditions. The fat composition differs. The nutrient density differs. The absence of antibiotics and hormones in the animal's feed prevents exposure to substances that could affect your own hormonal balance. If you follow a vegetarian diet, obtaining adequate protein for hormonal health requires particular attention. Combining plant proteins to achieve complete amino acid profiles, ensuring sufficient total protein intake, and possibly supplementing with specific amino acids like tryptophan become important. This is not to say vegetarian diets cannot support hormonal health, but they require more careful planning than diets that include animal protein. The timing of protein intake can align with hormonal needs. During the second half of your cycle, when progesterone production increases, protein requirements may rise. Many women notice increased appetite during this phase, and satisfying it with quality protein supports the hormonal processes driving the hunger rather than fighting against them. Let me now weave these foods into a practical framework that accounts for where you are in your cycle or your life stage. During the first half of your menstrual cycle, from the start of bleeding through approximately day 14, estrogen naturally rises. This is when avocados, bitter foods, and flax seeds provide particularly relevant support. The fats in avocados support estrogen production. The bitter foods support healthy estrogen metabolism. The lignans in flax seeds modulate estrogen activity. Eating abundantly from these categories during this phase aligns with your body's hormonal needs. During the second half of your cycle, from ovulation through the start of your next period, progesterone should rise and dominate. This is when root vegetables, quality protein, and pumpkin seeds become particularly valuable. The nutrients in root vegetables support progesterone production. The amino acids in protein provide building blocks for hormones and neurotransmitters. The zinc in pumpkin seeds supports progesterone synthesis. This does not mean you avoid estrogen-supporting foods during the second half, or progesterone-supporting foods during the first half. All these foods are valuable throughout your cycle. The framework simply suggests emphasizing different categories at different times to match what your body is doing hormonally. You're not forcing anything. You're supporting processes already underway. For women with irregular cycles, tracking by calendar is not possible. Instead, pay attention to cervical mucus changes, basal body temperature, or how you feel. Many women can sense ovulation through subtle shifts in energy, mood, or sensation. Use these signals to guide your emphasis even without calendar tracking. Or follow the lunar cycle as an external rhythm that provides structure when internal signals are unclear. Postmenopausal women have different needs. Ovarian production of estrogen and progesterone has diminished, though hormones continue to be produced in smaller amounts by the adrenal glands and other tissues. The foods I described still provide value, but the cycling aspect becomes less relevant. Instead, consistent intake of all these foods supports overall hormonal health without phase-specific emphasis. Bitter foods become particularly important postmenopausally because they support the liver's processing of hormones from all sources, including any hormone therapy you might be using. Hot flashes, which often relate to how the body handles hormonal fluctuations, may respond to consistent bitter food intake. Many women report improvement in vasomotor symptoms when they emphasize these foods. The symptoms that drive women to seek help with their hormones affect every aspect of life. Sleep disruption undermines energy and cognitive function. Mood instability affects relationships and work performance. Weight changes affect self-image and physical comfort. Low libido affects intimacy. Irregular cycles create unpredictability that makes planning difficult. When hormones are imbalanced, no domain of life remains unaffected. This is why addressing hormones through food matters so much. You are not just treating symptoms, you are addressing the underlying imbalance that creates them. When hormonal production and metabolism function properly, symptoms resolve because there is nothing creating them. The hot flashes stop because the body handles hormonal fluctuations smoothly. The mood stabilizes because neurotransmitter production is adequate. The sleep improves because melatonin production is supported. The weight normalizes because insulin and cortisol are balanced. The simplicity of this approach may seem suspicious if you have been told that hormones are complicated and require complicated interventions. But consider that for most of human history, women maintained hormonal health without any interventions at all. They simply ate foods that provided what their bodies needed. The complexity we now face is largely a product of departing from those foods, of creating conditions our biology did not evolve to handle, of solving problems we created rather than preventing them in the first place. This does not mean supplements, bioidentical hormones or other interventions have no place. For some women in some circumstances they are valuable or necessary, but they should not be the first resort when food has not been addressed. Layering interventions onto a foundation of inadequate nutrition is like painting over water damage without fixing the leak. The problem continues beneath the surface. Start with food. Give it time to work, at least 2 to 3 cycles to see meaningful changes. Track your symptoms so you can recognize improvement when it occurs. If food alone is insufficient, you will have established a foundation that makes any additional interventions more effective. If food alone is sufficient, you will have avoided the expense and complexity of interventions you did not need. I want to address the mindset shift that this approach requires. Diet culture has taught women to view food through the lens of restriction, to see eating as a problem to be controlled, to approach their bodies as adversaries requiring discipline and deprivation. This mindset is counterproductive for hormonal health. Your body needs nourishment to produce hormones. Restriction and deprivation create stress that disrupts hormonal balance. The fear of food, the guilt around eating, the constant calculation of what you should and should not consume. These patterns generate cortisol that affects every other hormone in your system. The approach I'm describing is not about restriction, it is about inclusion. It is about adding foods that serve your hormones rather than eliminating foods you enjoy. It is about nourishing rather than depriving. It is about working with your body rather than against it. When you eat an avocado, you're giving your body what it needs to build hormones. When you eat bitter greens, you are supporting the liver that metabolizes those hormones. When you eat seeds, you are providing lignans and zinc that modulate hormonal activity. When you eat root vegetables, you are supplying the energy and nutrients that progesterone production requires. When you eat quality protein, you are providing amino acids for hormones and neurotransmitters alike. This is not deprivation. This is provision. This is care. This is recognition that your body deserves the raw materials it needs to function optimally. I encourage you to experiment with these foods and notice what you experience. Keep a simple journal of what you eat and how you feel, noting energy, mood, sleep, and any symptoms relevant to your situation. Over time, patterns emerge. You discover which foods affect you most powerfully, which timing works best for your body, which combinations produce the most noticeable improvements. The women in my practice who have implemented these changes consistently report improvements that sometimes surprise them. Cycles become more regular, PMS symptoms diminish, energy stabilizes throughout the day, sleep deepens, mood evens out. Weight that seemed impossible to shift begins moving. These changes do not happen overnight, but they happen. They happen because the body has received what it was missing, because the hormonal system has been given what it requires to function. Your hormones are not mysterious forces beyond your influence. They are biochemical processes that depend on specific inputs to produce appropriate outputs. The symptoms you experience are not random afflictions, but signals that something is missing or excessive. Often, what is missing is as simple as the foods I've described, foods that were once common in human diets and have been displaced by processed alternatives that provide calories without nutrition. Returning to these foods is not a fad or a trend. It is a recognition that human biology has requirements that modern diets often fail to meet. It is an acknowledgement that your body is wiser than any protocol, that given what it needs, it will regulate itself more effectively than external interventions can achieve. The avocado on your plate, the bitter salad before your meal, the seeds sprinkled on your breakfast, the sweet potato with your dinner, the quality chicken or meat providing protein. These simple foods, eaten consistently, create the conditions for hormonal balance that no pill can fully replicate. They work because they are what your body evolved eating, what your hormones evolved expecting, what your health requires whether you're 25 or 75. Start today, not with perfection, but with inclusion. Add one of these foods to your next meal, add another tomorrow, build gradually until they become regular features of how you eat. Give your body time to respond. Trust the process. Watch what happens when you finally provide what you have been missing. Your hormones are waiting for the support you have not known to give them. The foods are available. The knowledge is now yours. What remains is the decision to begin and the patience to continue until your body shows you what it is capable of when it finally receives what it needs.